Understanding fear and phobias, a multidimensional perspective. Fear helps us survive by preparing our bodies to face danger. Fear and phobias may both generate significant emotional responses in regard to perceived dangers. Yet, although fear can be beneficial for survival, phobias can impose constraints on one's life and reduce its quality. Individuals suffering from a phobia may feel obliged to avoid interaction with specific situations or items. While this is conceivable in certain cases, it is not always practical. Fear and phobias may be learned by social conditioning, operant conditioning, or classical conditioning. Learning contributes considerably to the manifestation of fears and phobias, but it cannot account for all. It is important to examine the interplay between fear expression and cognition, attachment theory, and psychodynamic theory, as well as biological influences via genetics, and how taking in consideration different fields of psychology contributes to a more holistic comprehension of phobias and fear. Learning theories such as classical conditioning, social learning, and operant conditioning help explain how fears and phobias can be acquired. Classical conditioning, first demonstrated by Pavlov's experiment with dogs, shows that neutral stimuli can become associated with fear-inducing stimuli, leading to the development of conditioned fear responses. One notable example showcasing classical conditioning is Watson and Rayner's experiment in the 1920s study of little Albert. Albert, the baby, was conditioned to fear a white rat by pairing its presentation with a loud noise, resulting in a startle response. The child was participating in the study for a period of 4 months, from the age of 9 to 13 months old, and as a result of the conditioning, Albert was conditioned to fear rats or small white animals that had a similar resemblance. However, the studies were criticized based on the revaluation of video footage showing that Albert may not have been scared by the rat, but rather being startled by the sudden appearance of a rat in his hand. Also, the fear response regarding the rat weakened over time, requiring repeated conditioning by the researchers to maintain it. In regard to operant conditioning, fear and phobias can also be learned and reinforced through learning consequences. Operant conditioning encompasses positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and vicarious reinforcement. If the behavior or the consequences of that behavior are in some way rewarding, it is more likely the behavior would be repeated. As for phobias, if someone is afraid of needles and they have an appointment for a vaccination, they may cancel the appointment last minute to avoid the panic they feel in anticipation of the needle. By avoiding the catalyst of the phobia, the person is more likely to repeat the avoidant behavior in the future, thus making the phobia stronger. This phenomenon is called negative conditioning. Lastly, vicarious reinforcement is a motivation of mimicking a behavior when we observe others getting rewarded for that specific behavior. If a child observes that their parent is jumping and screaming because they saw a spider, and after the parent received a compassionate hug, the child will want to repeat this behavior because they would also like the reward of a hug. If a child has the cognitive capacity and can identify with their parent, and their parent has a higher status in their view, the child is more likely to replicate the modeled behavior. However, there is no need for rewording to occur for fear to be transmitted. Some individuals may be terrified of sharks even if they have never encountered them, just by watching TV shows about them. Significant evidence supports that certain kinds of fears and phobias can be learned, but does not explain all sources. For example, statistical data on fear of driving after automotive collisions suggests that not all individuals develop a fear, challenging the notion of learning fear in 100% of cases. Genetic composition is another component that might contribute to the manifestation of fears and phobias. Other factors that can explain phobias and fears is inheriting fear or phobia through genes. Phobias appear to be more frequent in those people who have a first-degree relative with a phobia. Specific phobias are also more prone to run in families. The 𝗙𝗵cie and 𝗙𝗲 2008 study suggests that some fears may be hardwired in our genetic makeup to ensure survival. For example, studies have shown that even 5-month-old babies, when presented with pictures of spiders and flowers, pay more attention to potentially dangerous stimuli, such as spiders, even if they were not exposed to them, indicating an innate fear response. This theory has learned factors as well as genetic predisposition. An experiment by 𝗙𝗵cie and Cook, 1993, showed that not all monkeys had a fear of snakes, but could learn this fear response by observation, and 𝗙𝗵cie and 𝗙𝗏𝗏 study showed that only specific shapes that look dangerous are more interesting, thus evoke fear, and stimuli, such as flower, did not evoke fear. This can mean that inherited fear, such as fear of snakes or spiders, sometimes needs to be triggered to be activated, just like monkeys in a lab, observing other monkeys on video being afraid of snakes. Additionally, cognition takes part in developing fears and phobias. Attention bias and interpretation bias may cause someone's thoughts to be shaped in such a way that they perceive danger in a totally safe situations or environment. Cognitive distortions are the root cause of this kind of fear, which is purely internal. For example, two people had a car accident in which one person interpreted the situation by blaming the other driver and did not develop a fear of driving. The other person thought that the car and roads were dangerous and became afraid of driving after the accident. How a person interprets the situation can contribute to fear or phobias. Lastly, psychodynamic theory and attachment theory can also explain fear and phobia. Psychodynamic theory, pioneered by Sigmund Freud, suggests that some fears can be unconscious. This can be caused by some disturbances in psychosexual development, causing the person to be fixated in the particular stage. Attachment theory supports that if a child develops anxious attachment style towards their caregiver due to unreliable parenting and not consistently meeting a child's needs, the child will not feel secure to explore the world. Anxious attachment is characterized by being more fearful and anxious in our relationships and other situations. Some types of phobias can be related to other types of attachment as well. Parker, 1979, found that agoraphobics reported less maternal care and protection, while individuals with social phobia reported the opposite, maternal overprotection and greater maternal care. Fear of the dark can also be explained by separation anxiety from the parent due to unstable attachment and the inability to self-regulate. In conclusion, understanding the expression of fears and phobias requires the consideration of multiple perspectives. While learning theories such as classical conditioning and social learning provide valuable insights, they have limitations and do not explain all phobias. Biological factors including genetics, attachment theory, and cognition contribute to a holistic understanding of fear and phobia development. By adopting a multidimensional approach, incorporating biological, behavioral, psychodynamic, and cognitive perspectives, we can gain a more comprehensive understanding of fear and phobias. By 𝗙𝗏𝗏.